Greetings, Outriders. My name is the Black Link. And today, I don't really have an exploit video or a glitch guide or anything like that. Today, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the state of the game when it comes to Outriders, and exactly where this title might be going in the future. Outriders released on the first day of April, a mere 28 days ago from the time of this recording, and I've got to say, I've really enjoyed my time on the game. It's been a fun, fresh, new experience in the looter-shooter genre. Despite the game's flaws, of which there are a lot, they really need to work out this whole multiplayer lag thing. I don't know why this game has to always be online all the time. That doesn't need to be a thing in a game like this where you can mostly play through it solo. Of course, the inventory wipe bugs were huge, but in spite of all of that, I've really enjoyed my time. I've put in over 100 hours in the last couple of weeks. And I've come to the point where I've exhausted most of the game's content, and I'm wondering about where this game is going to be going in the future. Of course, Outriders is not a game as a service. It's not going to be moving in the vein of games like Destiny 2, where every 3 months we've got some new content that is dropped onto our laps. We have no idea what the future content release schedule, if there even is a future content release schedule for Outriders. We have no idea what that's going to look like. But if we were to get some future content releases for this title, and believe me, I earnestly hope that we do, I would love to play more of this game. I've got a couple of ideas for how that might look and how that might start. Now, of course, I would love to see a major expansion to this drop maybe in 6 or 7 months or so. That might be a little ambitious, especially if the devs aren't exactly working on that right now. They haven't mentioned it. I think they've mentioned future patches and whatnot, but I don't know if they've mentioned any major content releases. But I think they could start this off slow. Right now, I would absolutely accept a minor expansion to the in-game grind, the expedition system. Right now, your expedition challenge tiers go up to CT15. I think a great way to sort of elongate the grind would be to make up a new batch of 20 or so legendaries and 10 or so legendary armor pieces, or at least enough new legendary armor sets to spread out amongst all 4 of the main classes in Outriders, and then you bumped up the challenge tiers by 5. Say you take it up from a max of CT15 to CT20. Add in a couple of new expeditions, and make it so that the enemies in CT16 and beyond become exponentially more powerful than the ones that you've faced thus far. But of course, as with those enemies being more powerful, so too will the gear that you'll be earning from it. And we could say max out your gear. We've got a max gear score of 50 right now. You can max it out at 60, just take it up by a straight 10, and gear that's dropping at level 60 is far more powerful than the stuff that you've got at level 50. I think that kind of simple expansion upon expeditions is probably a decent way to go here. We know expeditions are the end game there, just keep expanding upon that moving forward. That's kind of the way that a lot of MMOs handle things. And I think it'd be a relatively simple way for the devs of Outriders, for PCF, to keep you playing through their endgame. Just kind of drop in a few little bits of new content, some new stuff to chase, and new levels to go after while they work on some bigger major story expansions. Because, that's the thing. The gameplay loop in Outriders is fun. It's kept me playing far past the point where I reached Expedition, Challenge Tier 15, which is really the end game of Outriders. I reached that weeks ago. I'm still grinding through on different characters, just going for different roles, different clear times, and all that kind of stuff. The game is enticing enough to play, and I do believe that PCF could probably get away with just adding in new challenge tiers and expeditions in the short term in order to keep their player base going. And they can do that while they're making some greater expansions that they could drop later on. I do honestly hope that we've got some major expansions coming to this game because I think it definitely deserves it. With maybe having a content release schedule similar to games like Tom Clancy's The Division 2, where you got these major expansions that drop like once a year or so, and then with minor updates that add some new content or expand on old content. I think when they added in stuff like the Tower, or the Summit rather, in Division 2, is this repeatable in-game game mode. I think that was a great way to kind of bring players back and keep them going. But that's just one way that I think PCF could kind of improve the quality of life of Outriders and keep people playing past the game's, well, we'll say standard expiration date. Because if you've been playing since April 1st, you've probably gotten, like me, all the way to the end game. You're running expeditions, you're CT15, you've got a decent build and all that kind of stuff. There's really not a lot of content that would keep me playing past maybe next month. But that's not the only quality of life change that I would love to see implemented in the game. I think another thing they could do in the short term is start treating our boy Tito Tiago like the in-game vendor he's meant to be. Look, Outriders clearly copied a lot of concepts from other looters like Destiny. Just go ahead and copy-paste the Zer format right onto Tiago. I love that we have this in-game vendor who sells a limited amount of legendaries and a healthy amount of epic gear. That's great. The epic gear swaps on the timer. It makes no sense to me that the legendary gear that he has doesn't also swap on a timer. And it doesn't have to be an everyday timer. I think running the Zer format for Tiago, just having him swap his legendaries out once a week or even once every other week would be a worthwhile change for him. It would give me a reason to go back to him other than to dump my massive amount of drop pod resources for scrap that I can go and use and trade for other things at Bailey. Additionally, I think an awesome upgrade for Tiago would be for him to utilize a more limited version of the Elite offer that you get on other vendors throughout the game. If you go back to like the First City or Trenchtown or any of that type of stuff and you talk to some of the vendors, you'll notice they oftentimes, in addition to selling their normal inventory, will sell an Elite offer. That'll be like a bit of blue gear or maybe a bit of purple gear that has specific stuff on it. I think you add that system to Tiago and make him cycle out very limited bits of either epic armor or epic weapons that has a chance to roll a tier 3 mod that you've already got unlocked. You could swap this out on an hourly or on a daily basis, but you add the option for Tiago to have this rotating inventory, this minor elite offering of either epic armor or epic weapons, maybe a mixture of both, that has the chance to pre-roll with one tier 3 mod. That could create some really exciting options there, between weapon rolls and armor rolls for you to get some double tier 3 mods on there. Almost creating your own sort of pseudo legendaries, and it would create a reason for you to kind of go back to Tiago time after time and actually start spending some of those massive drop pod resources you've no doubt maxed out on if you've got a decent build at endgame. Moving on from there, I've just got a couple other really small things, small quality of life changes that I think would make the game so much better if they were introduced in a update sometime soon. And to be fair, a lot of these I think PCF has even talked about and mentioned that they're looking at implementing soon. But very small stuff. Like adding the ability to resurrect in solo play. There's no reason for why that's not a thing. Why you get a single revive when you're running with a friend, but you don't get any when you're running solo. So I'd love to see that fixed. I think you should definitely be able to share access to all of your currencies across all characters. It's ridiculous that your drop pod resources and your crafting resources on, say, your Techno is separate from that on your Pyro or your Dev or your Trickster or any of that. They just need to have one shared inventory. We've already got a shared stash. Let us share the inventory. And speaking of inventory, loadouts, for the love of God. Either loadouts or the ability to lock gear so that we don't accidentally dismantle it. I know this doesn't really matter for a lot of the classes like Trickster or especially Techno, where there's really just one build you want to be running. But if you're a Pyro, you've got like 3 or 4 different builds you can try. If you're a Dev, there are like 2 or 3 different builds you can try. And the ability to swap between them instantly would be really, really nice. So some type of loadout system for easy build swapping, or at least a way to keep ourselves from accidentally dismantling gear. And then beyond that, it's little stuff like downscaling. I think the way they downscale you right now so that you don't lull stop enemies when you're syncing up with your lower leveled friends is dumb. Should probably get rid of that. Or maybe I just want things to be a little bit easier. Anyways, that was for just some of the thoughts that I had about where Outriders might be going in the future. Like I said before, we're a couple of weeks into this game, and for the most part, I've explored basically all the content it has to offer. I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of it. I love the game, I've had a lot of fun with it, but I want to see more from it in the future. It's because I love my time on Outriders. It's because I enjoy the game so much that I really hope that this isn't just a one and done. I want to see more content from Outriders in the future. I want to see more of what PCF can do. And those were just some of my thoughts for how that might come together and some quality of life changes that maybe they could put out before too long. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. I'm sure you guys have plenty of ideas about where Outriders could go in the future. Would you like to see it treated more as a game as a service kind of model, with maybe a 3-month release schedule for basic content, a season pass, and stuff like that? Be sure to let me know. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. But I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Outriders, stay frosty.